All right, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of The Teardown. My name is Jeff Gluck. I'm along with my coworker, Jordan Bianchi. We are motorsports writers at The Athletic, and here we are at the Atlanta Motor Speedway Media Center. You can see, at least outside behind Jordan's window, if you're watching us, it is just past sunset here on Sunday night. The first race of the playoffs has been completed. And we are here to talk about all things playoffs, plus a little bit of charter news.
A little bit of charter news?
Well,
just a little?
I don't want to oversell it, but yes.
Not overselling. I think you're underselling it.
Okay, underselling it. But yes, we came to you guys in a brief episode after our media day. Thursday, we had a little bonus episode on Dale Jr.'s feed. And that was a lot of fun to talk to all 16 playoff drivers at Media Day. I think we're going to be putting out a longer, full episode coming up this week, I think is the plan. And so if you want to hear more of our interviews from Media Day, we had lots of fun. Hopefully you guys have seen a lot of the clips already that we had a great time with the drivers chatting to everybody. But here we are now. We have one race in the books to actually talk about in terms of the on-track activity. And it has started with Joey Logano, who I picked to be eliminated in the first round, Jordan, quickly advancing through.
Playoff dark horse for this guy right over here. Quick story real quick.
Okay.
We were at the tweet up today, and somebody asked us, hey, Bob and Jordan, who do you guys think is a dark horse? Bob Pockris.
Oh, because Bob was the tweet.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you were saying me, and you called me Bob. But it's fine. It's fine.
Thanks. Anyway, and I'm like, I think Joey Logano. And I said it in our podcast this week. I called it a hunch or whatever. I just thought he could make a deep playoff run. And Bob and me scoffed, Joey Logano, no way. That's no. And he picked Martin Truex Jr. And I'm like, that's much better.
So you're just dumping on Bob? Can't even defend himself?
There's no defending himself. He took shots at me. I love Bob.
Bob took shots at you?
He questioned my pick. It was a good pick.
I mean,
hey, I'm just saying,
okay.
we said in the podcast on Wednesday, which you can listen to in Dirty Mo, every other year since this playoff was started in 2014, in even numbered years, Logano's made the championship.
Oh, that sounds very scientific. You're like a Walmart sign away from this not happening. So let's not get on your high horse too much here.
Buddy. Hey, a win's a win, baby.
Okay. Well, anyway, so we have Joey Logano through, and I'm not sure that this Atlanta race was the amount of chaos that was predicted. There was no true big one, but you certainly had some drivers get impacted by things that happened in the race. I guess we'll start at the beginning, right? Because Kyle Larson, stage 1, he's running P3. It looks like he's going to be having a good finish to the stage. Suddenly, out of nowhere, his car seems to snap loose and he overcorrects and he's done, just like that. Now, you could say, well, oh my gosh, this is happening to super speedway or something. I don't think that was really super speedway related. He, it was a hard tire. The car was a little bit out of control maybe at the moment. Everybody was screaming loose in that first stage. He got loose.
Happens.
And that's it. Now, the bad part of that super speedway wise was Chase Briscoe, not being able to drive through it. Well, he drove through Larson, but not drive through the wreck and the smoke. And so that was really unfortunate for Chase Briscoe, because that was somebody who I did have going far as my dark horse in the playoffs, I think, to the round of 8. But, hey, we talked on the car ride this morning, Jordan. We carpooled all weekend, carpooled down from Charlotte back and forth from the track. And what were we talking about this morning? We said, how do you feel if something happened to Larson that's out of his control? And, would you be okay with that? Because this is the first time we've started the playoffs with a super speedway like this, right? And you were fine. You were fine with it because you said, hey, he just should have won more in the season. But we immediately see how those playoff points come into play, because he's still, what is he, plus 15?
Plus 15, yeah.
So you can wreck and finish 39th or whatever he finished, 34th, 35th, second to last because Chase Briscoe's actually scored last. And yet he's still above the cut line. So he's used a mulligan. He's still in okay position, but he's made his one mistake. So now he needs to have a clean Watkins Glen and Bristol.
Two of his better racetracks. So this race going in with this race, how it played out was so different than what I expected. There was so much trepidation in this race. Everybody kind of thought this was going to be tumultuous, a lot of chaos. Typical races, what we've seen here at Atlanta since they've done the reconfiguration. And largely it didn't really happen that way. I mean, yes, Larson crashed, but this wasn't, we didn't have a ton of title contenders leave here, scratching their heads going, man, what could we have done differently? We're in a hole now. Even Denny Hamlin, who did not have a good weekend across the board for reasons on the track and off the racetrack, still left here +2 and, heading to 2 racetracks where he should be much, much better. This did not play out at all like I thought it would, but it was still a very good race with a very expected outcome in that Team Penske was really the dominating force throughout the race, whether it was winning the stages, leading the laps, or winning the overall race. They do what they do on super speedway races so often.
Yeah. And so, look, I mean, I think it was still a typical super speedway in that, you had to manage your track position and you had to manage the draft correctly. But what we heard from a lot of guys ultimately in this race, skipping ahead a little bit, is that this track has worn out considerably since this repave. And with it being a hotter day today, it sounds like there was not, as much grip as in the spring. So they were not completely on top of each other in as much of a pack, but they were still able to stay in somewhat of a pack, but they had to lift. And so there was, sort of echoes of the 550 package a little bit around an intermediate track. And there was also echoes of old Daytona, a couple of drivers said, where the old Daytona before it was repaved, it was a handling super speedway, right? And you had to you had to have a good handling car. There was tire wear back then at Daytona. And, that was a key thing until Daytona was repaved. I think Joey Logano afterward, his quote was something like, "This is more of the old Daytona than the current Daytona is now." So I think it sounds like as this track continues to age, yes, it'll still be a super speedway, but it'll also be a different characteristics of super speedway than we see at today's modern day Daytona and Talladega. Is that fair?
Yeah, and that is what the prediction was when this reconfiguration went into place. And everybody was up in arms about it. This isn't a good idea, et cetera, et cetera. And the powers that be said, just give it some time. Like, let it play out. Let this track wear a little bit, get some age on it, and you're going to see that separation. Now, I don't think you didn't see the separation in this race nearly what you saw in the Xfinity Series race, where there was large spaces between packs of cars and you couldn't pass, but you could see it today a little bit. And track position is a great way to put it because this was a track position race. It's like, if you got that track position, it was not always easy to make passes. And sometimes it looked like cars stalled out a little bit. There was some cars, Ryan Blaney was one of them, that was able to make moves. Eric Jones at times could make moves, but you really had to get everything lined up. You had to get the right partner. You had to have fresh tires. You kind of had to be honestly be a little daring to go in that third line. And because it is narrow here, but you could make some moves. But an old school Daytona race, as you use as an example, is really the best way to describe it because that's what it was today.
Obviously, you had some of the fuel savings going on as well that we've seen at super speedways, but you also had cars that were able to get out front and control a lot of the race as the leader, and that was Austin Cindric for one. Austin Cindric led a career high 92 laps today, a race high 92 laps, and he got 19 stage points, which is huge for him because he's 7th in points now. And then you might say, well, wait, 19 stage points and he was doing so well. What happened? He had a bad pit stop and he got back in the field a little bit around, I think it was lap 164. He restarted in the 20s. I think the nut fell off or something.
Yep.
And so he was just really not able to sort of regain his track position. So he said after the race, talked to him a little bit. He said, I almost spent too much time out front because I wish that I had been in traffic enough to know what adjustments to make. Once we got back in the traffic, I didn't really have a car good enough to handle to get my way back up there. That said, he still finished 10th. So when you're looking at guys who, we were talking about the dark horses and the guys that go far, Austin Cindric starts his day on the positive side of that. and again 7th in points. So that's a good start for him.
And Blaney, great start for Cindric. And Blaney was the same way too. He was so good when he was up in the first 2 rows, and there was a moment in the race there before the crash. Even he got shuffled back to around 9th, 10th, and he's like, "Whoa, this is complete chaos back here. I'm not used to this. This is crazy." To Cindric's point, Cindric was a really easy guy to write off and say, listen, you look at the list of guys, like he's going to go out early, didn't have a great year. Yes, he won Gateway.
Easy exit round
Easy
1.
exit. The problem is there's a lot of guys you say that with. And people have to advance. It's not like 8 guys are going to go home in this round. Only 4 are. So as much as you look at this round of these drivers of 16 and say, oh my God, this guy doesn't belong in the playoffs, some of these guys are still going to move forward. And if you look at how these first 2 rounds set up for Austin Cindric, they set up very, very well. He's very good on super speedway races. He is excellent on these races. Showed that today. He is great on road courses. There's a road course in this round. Like, to leave here in the position he did, now heading to a track at Watkins Glen, which is where he's had success before, like, this is great. Now he's not having to play catch up. He's not having to climb out of a hole. He's almost to the point where he has a little bit of a buffer too. Like if there is a stumble in these next 2 weeks, he's afforded himself an opportunity to maybe overcome that a lot easier than he would have otherwise. So big day for him.
Another key moment in terms of playoff contenders, Chris Buescher just kind of hit a bump and got loose. He gets into Ryan Blaney, who had some damage, but the worst damage was with Martin Truex Jr. In that case. Martin Truex Jr., he ends up going 8 laps down or something.
Just a bad day.
Just continues his horrible streak.
It's just this is gone. This year went from really promising in the beginning of the year of like, hey, Martin Truex Jr. looks like he's going to be in the championship mix, to now is he going to get out of round 1? Is he going to win a race in his final year?
Yeah, I mean, he ends up finishing 35th, 12 laps down, if what I'm looking at is correct, and he is second to last in points, only 2 points ahead of Chase Briscoe. Pretty much the worst case scenario there for Truex.
And this playoff was so different from so many from Martin Truex Jr. in recent years. Most years he's gone into the playoffs with just a cachet of playoff points where he's been able to afford himself. Last year's a great example. Horrible round 1. Didn't matter. Had all these playoff points at his disposal, was still able to move on. This year, didn't really have any playoff points, and he doesn't have any safety net. And this is what happens now. And now he's going to Watkins Glen. Now he's going to go to Bristol. And would you call it a must-win mode?
No, I wouldn't say it's must-win at all.
You don't think 19 is must-win? You think he can still
19 points with 2 races? He can have a top
as
5
well
run at
as
Watkins Glen, and
he hasn't had top 5 in how long?
Yeah, he's still capable of doing it for
Okay.
sure.
All
I mean, you can't think you have to go win at this point. No way.
I
don't even think Chase Briscoe has to win yet.
Oh my goodness, I think Briscoe has to win.
Chase Briscoe's 21 out.
I just think
He's 21 points out.
okay.
Other guys are going to have problems.
But you have to have so many guys. They are second to and last in the standings. Like, they need to go and run well, and they need a lot of help. That's where I'm at with this.
I don't think so yet. I mean, I wouldn't panic yet. I mean, it's not good.
Okay, really quick.
It's not good, right? You're going to tell me Truex's bad stats.
I'm going to tell you Truex's bad stats. We are an information show.
Okay, go ahead. Tell me Truex's bad stats.
Last top 5 for Martin Truex Jr., Kansas.
Okay, I get that.
He hasn't led more than 28 laps he's led 28 laps at Michigan. And then before that, it's just like, no, this is not at all a driver and team that I feel like I have any confidence of. They haven't been able to score stage.
They don't have any momentum.
They have no momentum. They're not running well. They haven't had a lot of speed in their race cars. It just doesn't feel, they're going in the wrong direction at the wrong time. And it's been that way for a while.
I agree. I completely agree with everything you're saying. I just think I wouldn't panic yet and say, oh God, we have to go win Watkins Glen. I mean, or Bristol. And no, I don't. I think you'll be just fine. 19 points is not that much, dude. Really.
If you're running well and you feel like you confidently can go get stage points, yes. Oh, here's a question for you. Okay. So we know at road courses, you basically have 2 strategies, right? You either go for the win or you go for stage points.
Yeah.
You're Martin Truex Jr. What do you
stage points?
You go stage points.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You don't go for the win yet.
Okay.
What do you do?
I think
you're talking yourself out of it.
I think you go for the win.
You just boxed yourself in. You would have said you go to stage points, right?
No, I think if you're them, you go for the win.
You're just going to give up stage points at Watkins Glen if you're Truex.
Well, here's the other thing too, is we don't know what everyone else is going to do. So if the guys ahead of you, I'm thinking about this.
You're talking yourself out of it. You're so talking yourself.
Yeah,
out
I
of
am
it.
because now I'm thinking about it because I'm thinking about hang on a second. I'm thinking about guy. Well, we know Logano will go for the win because he doesn't worry about points necessarily, right? Blaney and some of the other guys that that
is SVG. SVG's in this race, right?
Yeah, so SVG's going to go for the win.
Montoya.
Yeah, but
like
Montoya.
Okay.
I don't know if Montoya's going to be a factor. I mean, that's let's be realistic here.
Okay.
I don't know. It's going to be an interesting decision, but I think with the way this team is, like, I don't have any confidence that they're going to be able to go out and get stage points. Like, if you have an opportunity to go for the win, I think you have to do it if you're them.
On the other side of the Truex thing, in that incident, you would have thought, Blaney. I mean, because Truex got the damage from the running with Blaney after Busher was involved. And you would have thought, oh man, Blaney's great day. He got 19 stage points too. Well,
18,
now his
18 because
18.
Okay. Yeah, 19. You're right. He's finished first. Like my fault.
So he got 19 stage points, and you're like, well, man, here it goes down the drain. Like he's gonna have a bad finish now.
Yep.
No, he fixes his car and comes all the way back through the field, and it's such a good damage repair, I guess, or so little damage, however you want to look at it, that he's able to be the race-winning driver's great pusher.
Look at this thing.
Lining up second.
Look at that.
Show them on the screen.
Look at this. I don't know if you can see this or not.
Okay.
Careful if I actually shoot. I just put a bunch of photos out there.
What photos were you showing everybody?
Anywho, he had this big giant patch of tape on his car. It did not look at all like a car that should have finished third in this race. He finished third, by the way, not second. It did initially look like he had finished second, but NASCAR reviewed the order. This was a home run day for him. Like, you have to be so happy. You get all those stage points. It helps you, build that up. He leaves here with the series point standings. You're leaving a race where you don't know what's going to happen, and you kind of feel like maybe fate's out of your hands a little bit. Now you're heading to Watkins Glen, which is not like his worst track by any means, but certainly not his best track. Bristol, he's really good at, but you just have to feel really confident about where you're at. And Team Penske has to be ecstatic because obviously Logano's moving on. Blaney's in a really, really good spot. And then Cindric took a huge step today. The only downside for Penske was the fact that Harrison Burton wrecked out. But, expectations are what the expectations were for him.
Yeah, well, just going along with my playoff notes here, keeping the key moments for each driver. Another key moment probably for Ty Gibbs is when the sign falls on the track. He was P2 at the time. He had been leading. He was P2 at the time. And because Suarez, he and Suarez were battling for the lead. It was shaping up to be great. Then the Walmart sign falls on the track. Ty Gibbs misses a block on the ensuing restart, and he ends up finishing 17th instead of possibly winning the race.
Yeah.
Now I said, if the sign doesn't fall on the track, do you win this race, or do you have a better finish? Ty, to his credit, didn't want to go there. He said, I don't really deal in hypotheticals. I don't play the what if game. What I'm mad about is I missed the block. And had I not missed this block, I would have gotten a much better finish. So
instead he's +1.
Yeah. I mean, that was a big moment though.
Huge.
Can I take a quick detour from this to talk about the sign falling on the track?
Yes, please. This could be like a rant in 2022.
Well, okay. Some of my friends and I, we talk about things that make us irrationally angry.
We had that conversation today.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Driving in.
What that was about.
I said going to airports. And
for you, it's the race traffic, people slow getting into the tunnel where they're going to race traffic, and you in the TSA.
Yeah, airports.
That makes you irrationally angry. Yep. What makes me irrationally angry today is this sign, because to me, if you're going to have your entire season come down to these little 3-race mini playoffs and then the 1-race championship, every single little thing from the track standpoint has got to be buttoned up. You cannot have a situation where a sign, for whatever reason, is even possibly going to fall onto the track. Now, this is the second time in 3 years, right? This has happened.
Yeah, 2022.
Because 2022 at the Roval, in an elimination race, there was a caution called for a sign on the track, and that changed the outcome of the playoffs for that year. Is that not?
That is correct. I think Elliott was leading, and then Christopher Bell ended up winning that race, a race he needed to win to move on. Yep.
So I just look, I mean, look, I'm sure it's nobody in particular's fault, or things happen. But if you're going to put signage where race cars are driving by so fast that some people have fooled themselves into thinking there's a vortex theory that it can control the weather, then you better have the signage locked down and secured, because NASCAR cannot have, and it's not NASCAR's fault, but NASCAR cannot have something like that changing the outcome of a playoff race or the playoffs. If it was a season-long thing, I think it's easier to be like, haha, that's kind of funny, little quirky.
No, it
quirky
shouldn't
kind of
happen
thing.
anyway.
Well, but you can say
No.
it's one of those moments a little bit better. No?
You know what they sell at Walmart? Zip
Blue?
ties.
Zip ties? Okay.
They sell zip ties at Walmart. Zip tie the damn signs.
Yeah,
it just can't happen. Like it can't happen. Like, and especially on a track like this, like road course, it's a little bit more forgivable because you've got they set them up on the side and the course and everything like that. Here, it fell down from the flag stand?
I don't think it's a flag stand, but
it doesn't.
There's like an overhang.
Yeah, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
The problem is at the speed you're going, if that falls and when it catches somebody in the windshield, right, and it catches your vision, you can't see, or it's falling towards you, and you're like, "What the hell is that thing coming towards me?" And you move. Here, the consequences could be dire. It's a little more forgivable on a road course, but not so much here at the speeds and the style of track that this is. You cannot have that happen.
Now, look, aside from Ty Gibbs, you could argue that late restart didn't seem to change too much about the playoff picture today. Again, maybe, and that, it's fine, but what happens if that, you have a giant restart and then the big one happens on the restart? And again, people could go, oh, that didn't happen, so why are you talking?
Yeah, why are you dealing in what ifs?
Yeah, I get that, but
it just still
I just want to see it tightened up. Let's
literally tighten it up.
Literally tighten it up.
Get some zip ties, go down to Walmart, buy some zip ties, and just zip ties those damn things.
Yes. Now, there was this set up a late restart ultimately after was it the Noah Gragson spin?
That was a hard crash.
Yeah, the Noah Gragson one. There was the debris, then there was a restart, then there was the Noah Gragson crash, and then overtime. So another overtime, I think it was Steven Stumpf maybe tweeted that this ties the record for most overtimes in a season. 9 races to go. I think that record will be broken.
I will put money on the over on that one.
Seems like that, yes. But so this sets up a very interesting restart because you've got 2 teammates on the bottom, Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney, and you've got 2 teammates on the top with Daniel Suarez and Ross Chastain. So what was interesting about it is you would think, and this is what Logano said afterwards as well, the teammates on the top with Chastain and Suarez, no chance Chastain is going to leave Suarez's back bumper.
No.
Because while Blaney also could use a win to advance the next round, and he's going to stick with Logano, you would figure, but ideally he probably pushes him out so far and then he can make a winning move. That was
kind of what he was hoping for. He said that was the plan. I was like, I just wanted to get him just cleared enough where I could maybe make a move down the back stretch and it wasn't going to cost either one of us. But that didn't happen. But Blaney executed that perfectly. No hiccups at all for Penske.
Meanwhile, on the top line, Logano had noted that the Trackhouse guys actually got connected quicker than the Penske guys did. But ultimately, as they are coming, to the white and all that stuff, Chastain is not able to stay connected to Suarez. He gets a little loose, kind of loses it for a minute.
And then that looked like it was going to be a bad crash.
Well, and then it looked like maybe Wallace got into Elliott, and Elliott got into Chastain. And then Chastain, it almost looked like, I don't know, he went in the wall.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like he got up in the wall there and like, oh, this is going to be
he either went in the wall or came very close to doing that. So yes, they just couldn't stay connected. I think Suarez in his comments afterwards said he almost thought in his rearview mirror, he almost thought Chastain had a flat tire or something. Yeah. But that was ultimately the race because Logano said, hey, like if those guys are able to stay connected on the outside, it's probably it looks different there because they did a really good job of doing that. And again, Chastain, if he doesn't get loose there, is never lifting.
No.
I mean, he is going to be the good teammate and push all the way.
He is pushing Suarez the entire way Doesn't care about winning himself. He is going to be the perfect teammate.
So Suarez, although it's a good day for him, he's sort of left to wonder what if an Atlanta sweep would have been huge. He finishes second after they adjusted the timing scoring because a caution came out late there, so they had to switch him and Blaney. But Suarez, it's sort of a what if kind of day, right? Because he can be happy with the points, but he's ninth in the standings, and he's plus 22. Plus 22, where, hey, plus 22 or being locked in.
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
Especially going to a track at Watkins Glen. There's going to be supposed tire fall off, and who knows?
Yeah, because 22 points is not a lot, right?
I don't know. I mean, that's great. If Suarez has a bad day,
you didn't bite on that.
No, I'm not going to bite on
I
it.
thought I almost got that.
You're going to be a troll. I'm not going to fall for your victim. No.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
I don't even know what I say.
I'm sorry. I totally ruined it.
Such a bully. You're such a bully.
I'm not a bully. I just wanted to point out that 22 points is not a lot, where 21 points for Chase Briscoe.
22 points is a lot if you're not running well.
Okay. All right. Well,
like if you're.
All right. Anyway, so Harrison Burton was also for a while there. Like he was late. I think he was like +0 or
he was flirting with the cut line. There at different points. He's like +4, -2, but it never felt like to me. If this was a race where he needed to be exemplary, like he needed to go out and run up front and get that stage points and put himself. And even if you can't win the race, get stage points and finish as close to the front as possible and leave here, hopefully. And then, by the way, you need bad stuff to happen to a lot of other people. And it didn't really happen today. Like this day, even before the crash, like it was just not going to be the day that Harrison Burton needed to move forward in the playoffs. And it feels like now it's going to be a very uphill battle.
Yeah. But I mean, so he gets in this crash on the last lap, which is why I brought his name up. And he finishes 31st. He's not able to actually make it across the finish line. But he was going to be in the 20s before that. So that's a bunch of extra points he could have gotten. Now, how many below is he?
He's 16. But even then, like, even if you finish somewhere in the 20s, you take, add another, he's still going to be minus, let's just be generous. Let's say -6.
Okay.
That's, I mean, no offense. We know
you're saying he needed to have a top 10 solid
day. He
day,
needed a top 10. Yeah. He needed a top 10 day with a lot of stage points. And he needed more guys beyond Briscoe to have bad days. He needed to capitalize. It did not work. The formula, that was the formula he needed to advance. It did not happen. He's cooked.
So multi-car crash on the last lap. Another playoff driver getting caught up in that was Denny Hamlin. He ends up finishing 24th. Up until then, he probably wasn't going to finish much better than that anyway, because he was running in the back all day. And I think right before that restart, maybe he was up to 22nd or something.
Yeah,
like that.
And he was not at all liking the vibe of where he was at. It was.
Yeah. So a few of us talked to him afterwards. So let's back up. So he starts the weekend and he hears like a pop in qualifying, and he qualifies last, like way off the pace. And it turns out there was a plug wire loose or something going on with his engine. So they changed that. And before the race, they also changed Truex and Ty Gibbs. They all had to follow the pack. But even once the race started, Truex was able to move up through the field. Gibbs was able to move up through the field. Denny kind of didn't, like when the others had started to advance. And then I think it was the very first caution, they pit after the leaders had pitted, so that they're trying to hang in the back. So it turned out, it's sort of this intentional strategy to be like, all right, we're just not going to risk getting caught up in something. We're just going to, sort of do a layup here and just take what we can get. I think he said he wanted to get like 20 points out of it. Ultimately, again, he gets wrecked on the last lap. So not what he had in mind. He also said that he was thinking that there was going to be a big one.
Yeah.
And so that would have allowed him to gain more positions. Yeah. But it didn't work out. It just didn't work out. But despite all that, he's still above the cut line.
Still
barely.
+2.
So
going to a road course where he's good on road courses now. Going to Bristol where he's won the last.
That's generous, no? He's good on road courses?
He's gotten better. I mean, he said it, like road courses were a struggle for him for a little bit. He's gotten much better. He's great. He qualifies really well. He runs well. I don't think he's exceptional. He's run very well. He should be like a top 10. And then you go to Bristol where he's won the last 3 on the pavement or on the concrete there, I think.
Well, again, that Bristol one, we don't know what the tire is going to do at Watkins Glen. We also don't know what the tire is going to do at Bristol. So, yes, he has won several races in a row. At Bristol, he won the night race last year. He won the spring race this year.
Yeah.
But if it's that tire kind of, he's great at conserving those tires.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the thing, though. I
Yeah.
mean, if it is a tire where it favors the veterans and favors the guys who save tires, I mean, that's Hamlin's wheelhouse. There's few, if anyone, better than that.
Sure.
Than him.
Yeah. But
He's got to feel really good, though. I mean, I know it sounds silly for a guy who's +2. I mean, you obviously don't know what's going to happen mechanically or whatever else, but this could have gone a lot worse for him.
But let me ask you this. So Kyle Petty on USA Network afterwards was very critical. And, he was saying he's baffled by Denny's strategy. I
don't have a problem with it.
He
played the numbers. You look statistically at this race. And I'm talking Daytona, Talladega. I'm talking Atlanta since the reconfiguration. They have been carnage-filled races where you see a lot of big accidents, a lot of guys get taken out, happens continually. If you play the percentages and that team is very analytical and loves to play the numbers, you look at the numbers and say it overwhelmingly says this is going to be an attrition-filled race. Let's be smart about this and not put ourselves in a spot, and then we'll pick our way forward. It makes sense.
So from my perspective, I'm just trying to think this through. Once you're going to start in the back, you are probably not going to get stage points in stage 1.
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair to say? And you probably have to do a considerable amount of work to get into stage points in stage 2, because you would have had to take some risks or come up through the field or play some sort of strategy. So if you're not going to get any stage points or many, let's say you get 8th place in stage 2, you get 3 stage points or something. What is the best way to get points? Well, it's to hope other people wreck and make sure that you don't wreck, right? Because like you said, what Denny could not afford to do today was end up in a Larson or Briscoe type situation where he's only leaving with 2 points, 3 points, because he didn't have the playoff points that a Larson has. No. He lost his playoff points because of the engine penalty. He lost his chance at the regular season championship because of the engine penalty. So, I mean, I'm not trying to play devil's advocate. I just think logically that probably is the right way to do it. And it looks a lot better if there had been a wreck and he's hanging in the back and he lets people take themselves out. Yeah. It just didn't work out that way. But I don't think it was that flawed of a strategy. I really don't. I'm being sincere.
I agree. I will just double quickly here. Martin Truex Jr., who did start in the back, finished 9th in stage 1. Ty Gibbs, who also started in the back, finished 10th. So you could, if you wanted to, the opportunity was there to get up there. But is the juice worth the squeeze? And I don't know.
Especially you kept hearing Denny saying that his car wasn't handling.
Yeah, it was really loose. He did not like his car, and I have no problem with it. I think it's a smart move. It's just this race did not have the attrition you typically see at Atlanta races.
Yeah, I mean, certainly not something. I mean, in the spring here, the big one happened on lap 2.
Yeah,
and took out a whole bunch of contenders.
Mm-hmm.
And so that just never. I mean, again, there was a couple multi-car things today, but it wasn't anything extreme like a Daytona style wreck. So, well, we've now reached the point where we should probably talk about a little bit more about the race winner, the guy who actually did come out on top today, Joey Logano.
Mr. Even numbered years.
Sure. I mean, I'm just
a horrible nickname.
I really, is that really going to be the story? Oh, even numbered years. Can we not?
Why?
It's just such I mean, who cares? It's just there's nothing behind it. There's nothing statistical. Well, yes, he gets burnt out in odd number of years, then he has to regroup and come back or something. Okay, whatever.
You were going to swear.
What?
It sounded like you were going to swear.
No, I wasn't.
You were going to swear.
An exhausting.
It's exhausting. You're exhausted over the conversation about Logano.
It's just stupid. Why do we have to waste energy? Why does everybody it's even number of years? Can we not?
What's wrong with the even number of years? Do you know that Joey Logano even numbered years has made it to the championship for? 2014, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24.
Okay.
Maybe.
Thank you. Anyway, either way, what we do know is that this guy turns it on in the playoffs.
And even numbered years.
He is able to rise to the occasion and find another gear. He said he would like to race like that all the time, of course, but for some reason he's able to do it in the playoffs. But I'll tell you what, when somebody believes that about themselves, that makes them even more dangerous, because that level of confidence and swagger and like, I know we can find another level, that's powerful stuff, in my opinion, because that enables you to make moves and race with aggression and confidence and just feel like you have it under control. I think that, obviously his round 1 elimination last year was very costly in the sense that Team Penske found speed later in the playoffs as he had the year before. He's very well aware that if they stick around long enough, they may find the speed they need to win another championship.
Yeah, I mean, an even number of years, yes. It was an odd number of year last year, so he really wasn't going to do anything. But I agree with your point that he is the toughest. I will say that he is the toughest out in the playoffs. Like, I'm serious. The mentality this team has, and I wrote about this in The Athletic, is like I don't know if there's a driver in the playoffs. If you're leading the race, I don't think you fear anyone else more than Logano.
Why?
Because he will do whatever it takes to win. He is, and I mean this with 100% respect. He's ruthless, and he has the mentality of, I will do whatever it takes to win. I'm not here to make friends. I don't care if people like me. I will win. I will win at all costs. You look at his track record in the playoffs, and that is how he approaches these races. And like whether it's Kansas at Kansas, Truex at Martinsville, he just finds a way. And even when he doesn't have the best car, when he held at Harvick that a couple years ago in 2020, which clinched the spot and even number year in the championship 4, he is so good at just finding a way. When he doesn't have the fast car, he aero blocks the hell out of Harvick. It's all of these little things. Like I'm telling mentally, like to your point, he's just the toughest out. And I can't quantify that in any other way. I just look at it, and this guy is just, he's a grittiness and a toughness to him that I think would scare the hell out of me if I was leading a race.
Then why did he get out in round 1 last year if he's the toughest out?
People did not. I mean, just because you're the greatest basketball player doesn't mean you win the championship every year. I mean, Tiger Woods didn't win every major when he was the greatest golfer in the world. Like, it just happens. I mean, there's circumstances that happen that, evolve. And he got caught into a crash at Bristol last year that wasn't his own. If I remember correctly, I don't think it was his own. I don't think it was his doing. I think LaJoy cut the apron and then, started the crash. Like, things happen. I mean, it's just sometimes things work against you. But just because you don't win all the time doesn't mean you're always going to win.
Yeah. All right. I mean, so are you saying, Cokes? Okay, let's back up for a second here. You're talking like this guy is dangerous, and you said he's your dark horse and all this stuff. We did not list him in the 7 guys that we thought could win the title this year. We didn't put, right?
No, I told you this after the fact. We made our championship 4 predictions last week. I told you this after the show. I said, man, I really mold putting him, or it was Blaney or Logano. We had this conversation. Don't give me that look. We had this conversation. What? All
right. So wait, I just want to be clear. Are you now saying that he can win the championship this year?
Would you be surprised? It's an even numbered year.
Yes.
It's an even number year.
Yes, I would be surprised if Joey Logano can win the championship this year. Joey Logano's not going to win the championship this year.
Okay. I mean,
he won a super speedway race in round 1. We haven't heard barely anything from this guy all year. He was way out to lunch in the points. Wasn't he not in the top 10 in points?
Yeah, you're really quick to make declarative statements. Like, I'm not saying he's going to win the championship.
I'll say it. He will not win.
Sure. Yeah.
He's not going to
probably
win.
Unlikely. Statistically, he's unlikely. Sure.
All right.
But you have to admit, his track record, as you said, Penske finds speed this time of year. They have found speed over the second half of the season. All of these things, like, you look at it and you're like, man, like, same thing. 2022, we neither of us said this. We both said there's no way Joey Logano's win the championship. What happened? Won the championship. We both said last year, there's no way Ryan Blaney's going to win the championship. No way Ryan Blaney won the championship. Don't look at me like that. That's true.
I don't think we said there was no way.
Okay.
I think they weren't the favorites, but I don't think we were like, they're way off. Like,
okay.
That's just how are they going to make it through round 3? Homestead, Vegas.
How have they made it through round 3 the last 2 years when they didn't have speed on the intermediate racetrack? Don't look. You hit such revisionist history.
Okay. Well, I don't.
We literally had this conversation a year ago. Okay, fine.
All right. Well, anyway,
It's exhausting.
let's talk about something positive like our sponsor safety culture, Jordan, because there were some key decisions that went on this race. And so each week we go over the key moments of the race, the key decisions. So this segment is sponsored by Safety Culture, the workplace operations platform giving teams what they need to get the job done quicker and improve every day. Safety Culture, a better way of working. So my key decision here was for Joey Logano to take the bottom. Now, why? You see, well, that's not that big hard of a decision. Right before that, Kyle Busch was running third on the restart before that. And they had gone back and forth with his team. What should we do? Should we take the top? Should we take the bottom? They decided, you know what? Let's take the bottom. Kyle Busch went backwards. By the time the caution came out, he had gone from like third to 10th. And he immediately came on the radio and said, well, the bottom sucks. There's no speed there, right? So then now it's Logano's turn. Coleman Presley, his spotter, says, all the research, the book says, we got to take the bottom here. Logano's all in. They have, they've done their research. They've had all these meetings. They've gone through all the data, and they decided that was their move. Blaney then basically had to follow his teammate. He wasn't going to follow Suarez up to the top, so he's going to stick with his teammate. That turned out to be a key moment. Again, that was the race-winning move. Would it have been different on the top? I don't know, but Chastain was trying to stick with his teammate all the way around up top and got disconnected. So I don't know, but that seemed to be a pretty key moment for me.
Great pick. I love that pick. I'm going to go in a different direction. Not a guy who won the race, but a guy whose championship hopes certainly maintain and puts in a good spot to move forward, and that's Tyler Reddick. Tyler was having a good race, had an incident on pit road, pulling out of his pit stall, and he hits Carson Hocevar. There's some concerns. Is there damage? Is the alignment out? Is there something broken? They come in, they check it out, they make a repair. He continues on and rallies back from starting, having go in the back, comes up, finishes sixth. And instead of a race where, it looked, hey, an incident happens, it could have gone bad. And we talk all week long about how this race is going to be bad for some championship contenders. The 45 team still guts it out and pulls up. Reddick finishes sixth. He leaves Atlanta plus 33. That's a huge number. 33 points to the good. Going into a road course where Tyler Reddick is so great on road courses, and going to a Bristol track where he should be good as well. Like, not a lock to make it into round two at this point, but 33 points is a really big number. To me, the key moment for him and that team was assessing the damage, making sure everything was right, coming back down pit road, and then putting a plan together to go pick your way towards the front, and they were able to do that and leave here with a top 10 finish.
Great pick as well. Yeah, I mean, when he got that damage and had to come back down, I was like, oh, this is the kind of thing that could cost you, because you never know when you lose your track position at a super speedway if you're going to then get in the wreck right afterwards and go, well, that was it.
Yeah, it's so easy. And we saw it with Martin Truex Jr. It's like, you think, oh, we got some damage, we're going to be okay, we'll make some repairs. And all of a sudden, oh, no, this thing's a lot worse than it is. And that was another key moment, not to pick another one, but that you look at that, and it's like Truex came to this race. We know his record on super speedways is not the best. He's never won one of these races before. He gets caught up into a wreck, not of his own doing. It's like, okay, yeah, we're going to be okay. We're going to come back. And then they start going through everything. They get up to speed, and it's like, oh, no, the car is a lot worse. And their day just goes to hell in a handbasket.
Yep, I hear you. Got to make sure that stuff's safe and all fixed up before you go back out. But speaking of Safety Culture is a workplace operations tool that gives teams what they need to get the job done quickly and improve every day. But what does that actually mean? Well, obviously, if you're part of a company, a business, a team, etc., efficiency is everything. No matter what you're trying to achieve, no one has time to waste. From construction sites to factory floors, Safety Culture is designed to drive improvements not just in safety, but broadly across quality and efficiency too. It's all about meeting higher standards by bringing the whole team onto one page, all from their mobile device. We know Trackhouse is not only a sponsor on Shane Van Gisbergen's car, but they are a big believer in the Safety Culture app. They use Safety Culture's app to manage everything from pre-race inspections on the car to assembly checks and even in-house training, all on their very own operations platform. So if you're a team leader, the Safety Culture app can help you get greater visibility across your whole operation so you can make confident decisions fast. If you work behind the scenes, Safety Culture can give you access to the knowledge and tools to ensure your success and help you make every second count. Are you ready to put your workplace in the pole position? Head to safetyculture.com/SVG. That's safetyculture.com/SVG. Jordan, we have Watkins Glen coming up next, and there seems to be sort of a variety of takes on how this will all unfold, because originally when they went to test up there with this new tire, they're like, oh, there's like a bazillion seconds of fall off.
6 seconds.
It's going to be crazy. Holy crap. And then they went up, I guess, with like the wheel force cars to do the wheel force test. And they're like, oh, well, actually, maybe there's only like 2 seconds of fall off. Yep. So nobody really knows.
No one knows. But I never feel like I feel like when it comes to tire stuff, and I'm guilty as this as anybody, is we always like, oh, we think it's going to be this when it comes to tires. And then it's so often it's not, it's completely something different. You don't really know until you get a full field of cars in race conditions and have it see unfold. So giant question mark.
Well, another giant question mark, Jordan, is the charter system right now. Probably the bigger story coming out of this weekend will be the charters than the actual race. The race was fine, but
yeah,
I think it wasn't like a huge headline grabbing race necessarily. But the charter stuff, this is sort of what NASCAR actually wanted to avoid by trying to get the deal done before the playoffs started. They did not want this hanging over everybody's head, so to speak. But now, Jordan, it not only seems like it's going to be hanging over everybody's head for the next few weeks, possibly all the playoffs, but possibly a lot longer. Let's try to recap what has happened in the most simple way without overcomplicating this, and then we can sort of dive into some of the issues and what might happen next. So backing up, obviously these charter negotiations have been going on for a long time. NASCAR will submit a proposal. Teams might counter and say, well, we don't like this. We want this, right? They got to a point last Tuesday. There was a meeting.
Yeah. NASCAR made it an offer the week before that. And that was the team owners met on Tuesday to go over that offer and to decide whether they wanted to accept it or not.
So it gets to Friday, and there was, I think the deadline was originally Friday afternoon or something like that.
Late Friday afternoon.
NASCAR, from what we understand, then sends the 105-page charter agreement to the teams around 5 or 6 p.m. From what we were told on Friday night. And they say, you guys have until midnight to sign this.
To go over a 105-page document.
Well, that's what we understand.
No, right? No. Can you imagine that you've got like 5 hours to go over this 105-page document?
Well, I would say you would think that I don't think it was the first time that they had seen this. Now it was a revised version, just some slight revisions.
It had been redlined.
So you would probably just be able to look at the changes that were in it and compare. But still, it's 105 pages. It's a big deal. But NASCAR basically made it known that if you guys don't sign this by midnight, we will revoke your charters. We're taking them. Not from our understanding, the people we talked to, not like, listen, this is your deadline. We might take them. We will take them. That's it. You're done if you don't sign this by midnight. So 13 of the 15 team owners, not thrilled, but they fall in line. We have posted a story on The Athletic with a bunch of quotes from various team owners, most of whom did not want to be identified for fear of retribution. It's been compared to putting a gun to our head, one said. Communist regime.
A team owner did compare NASCAR to communist regime. Correct.
So nobody, I don't say nobody. There was a couple of teams that seemed
there's pieces of the deal that there's pieces of the deal that people are looking at. This is a really positive thing for us. This is good. And there's other parts of the deal you're like, that's not what we wanted, but that's kind of how deals work generally, right? So,
But for the most part, the teams would have liked to keep negotiating, would have liked to have more time, but felt they had to sign this or they were going to lose their charters, except for two, 2311 and Front Row Motorsports. Between the two of us, we talked to both the team owners, or at least a representative from each team this morning. You talked to Bob Jenkins from Front Row Motorsports. We both talked to Curtis Polk, who is Michael Jordan's longtime right-hand man and co-owner of 2311. What do you want to recap what they said? Why didn't they sign?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't like the terms of the deal. I mean, that's the gist of it. They just did not. They felt like NASCAR was being heavy-handed and more 2311 than Front Row Motorsports in this, though Front Row Motorsports does share a lot of the sentiment expressed by 2311 in their statement. There's a lot of frustration that NASCAR is kind of fell back in their historic ways of being heavy-handed, our way or the highway. This is how we do things. And that this wasn't a back and forth, there was no negotiating in good faith is probably the best way to describe it.
And, Curtis Polk put it as David facing Goliath, that NASCAR has not been fair in these negotiations. And he even described it as a step backwards from the current charter system. We know that they're going to be getting more from the TV revenue, but they also did not get everything they wanted and the other things they were asking for. He did not want to go into specifics or negotiate in the media as NASCAR has asked, but made it very clear that they seem nowhere close to signing. So this is where it leaves us, Jordan. What happens next? What happens next? This is the big mystery.
Yeah, and I don't have the answer. Nobody has the answer, really, because we don't know. This is literally, part of the pun, uncharted territory. It's going to be fascinating to where this goes. If you're 2311, you're holding out for a better deal. Okay, that's your prerogative. That's great, but common sense would say NASCAR is going to give you a better deal than they gave the other 13 teams that have signed on. Like, is that how this is going to work? Because if they gave you a better deal than the other 13 teams, the 13 teams are going to come back to you and go, what the heck? Like, that's not how this works. I don't know how this gets resolved. I would think that cooler heads will prevail. And looking at the situation, it seems like 2311 has two options. Or I shouldn't say two options. They have a few different options. One, you just reluctantly sign the charter and you say it is what it is. We're not going to get a better deal. Two, you run as an open car and you take the monetary hit because it is a fine. It's $5 million is the number I've been told if you run as an open car of how much you're going to end up losing. Or three, you fold up shop and you just say, hey, we're done with this. We don't want to be part of this anymore. But if you look at 2311, they bought two charters. They have reports. We've been told that they have bought a third charter. So that's three charters you paid for. You just built a brand new expensive building. Like, you've got all this investment into this sport. I can't see how you're going to close up shop and not run. So I don't see how this gets resolved in a way that 2311 says, hey, we're happy with this. Like, to me, the deal is virtually done. And like, it's almost like a take it or leave it. Like, these are the terms. This is what the 13 other teams agreed to. You're either on board with this or you're not. And that I just don't see a path forward.
Okay, I'm going to share my opinion, and I just want to make sure that everybody knows this is my opinion and not something that I've been told or came to this conclusion by talking to people. I'm trying to read between the lines here, because here's my take. All weekend, I was thinking similar to you, Jordan, in that what is the end game for 2311 here? Like you said, I don't see how holding out is going to get them a better deal. NASCAR has clearly done negotiating, and so therefore they're not going to go, you know what? All right, after another couple weeks or whatever, we'll give you guys different charter or different better terms than the teams that just signed. So where is 2311 going with this? Are they suddenly going to, in a couple weeks say, you know what, we'll take that deal? I don't think that either. So where are they going? Because all along we've been like, where's the leverage here? They have no leverage, right? So if that's the case, after talking to Curtis Polk today in the little interview session that we had, I'm trying to read in between the lines. Here's what I think. In theory, they could be going like, you know what? We're going to go all the way with this. We're going to stretch this all the way out, because if they say we're now going to take this to the legal system, go ahead. You take our charters. Number one, NASCAR, what immediately is going to happen if they take the charters is the headline is going to say NASCAR takes $100 million worth of charters from Michael Jordan's team, right? That would be the big thing.
The hell of a headline.
Then it will be Michael Jordan's team suing NASCAR in like federal court, right? Would be the next thing. Some antitrust suit.
Mm-hmm.
And if that is not settled, NASCAR would suddenly have to go and like open their books,
mm-hmm.
and there'd be all these financial revelations coming out. I, in some ways, think that 2311, Curtis Polk, MJ, they are so upset with how they've been treated. They have said it over and over again. They have been the loudest ones. They are so angry. Now NASCAR is upset with them, but NASCAR is sort of like, haha, we got you in some ways, it feels like, right? Because they finally convinced everybody to sign, and they think this is going to be behind us. If they have this holdout of 2311, and maybe Front Row joins along, I don't know if Front Row will go all the way with this, but let's just say Curtis Polk said today, when I asked him, financially, is it feasible for you guys to run open cars next year? So they would stay in business and just show up as open cars, try to qualify for every race, basically get paid nothing in the purse. They'd obviously still have their sponsors and all that stuff. I mean, not having a charter is pretty, I mean, they've paid tens of millions of dollars for this stuff. They're not going to want to just see it go away. But if there's anybody out here in the garage that could be like, well, I'll just absorb the cost because I see a potential for a longer term gain, it could be Michael Jordan, right? How many billions of dollars does he have at his disposal, essentially, has at his disposal? So that could finally be the leverage in some ways. And again, I don't have this information. When we asked Curtis Polk today, would you consider, is this going to go to court? He wouldn't say, right? He just said, we have to do whatever we have to do to defend ourselves, all that stuff, or to stand up for our rights and all that stuff. But if they think, hey, we can drag NASCAR into court and either get a settlement from this, or, get NASCAR to make the concessions we've been asking for, or take it all the way and change the model of the sport, essentially, right? Like maybe that's what they're trying to do. And they feel like they're trying to do it for the other teams, I'm sure, as well. It's a very, I didn't think it would get to this point, but now for the first time, I'm kind of seeing like this could be a long, protracted battle if this does not come to a head, because it's not like I just always thought, okay, December 31st, they have to do it because they're not going to want to lose their charters. They're not going to want to just let all this stuff go. Maybe they're willing to walk the plank and see what happens. I don't know. Like, is that possible?
It's all fair. I just want to I think it's important to note NASCAR has said nothing on this, so we don't know if they're going to revoke the charters. It's certainly a possibility. If they don't sign the new charter agreement, the option is there. NASCAR has not commented publicly on this. A couple things on that, and I agree with what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. I don't know when it comes to legalese, and these are just loose conversations I've had with people who are much smarter than I am. If NASCAR is going to pay the market rate for a charter and it says, and it's under the terms of the charter agreement that's already been signed, the one we're operating now, can you go to court and say, hey, wait a second, something we agreed to, we're no longer in for? If you agreed to that, saying, hey, our charters can be revoked if we don't sign this new thing, like if you're just following something you agreed to, I don't know if you've got a case, and I don't know the answer. We're going to potentially find out. The charter agreement ends December 31st. Like it nulls and voids the charters, And so again, if I'm NASCAR, I'm saying, well, what's your case? Like that you didn't sign the charter agreement. That's fine. That's your choice. That charter agreement ends December 31st. The new one starts January 1st, 2025. And that's in effect that involves the 13 other teams. I don't know if you have a case, if it's an antitrust case, especially if you're willing to pay the market rate for the charters. If you're willing to pay $25-30 million for the 3 charters that 2311 and 2311, 2 charters that 2311 has. And the 3 charters that Front Row has, like if you're willing to pay that out, you just say, hey, sorry, that's the agreement. I don't know how a judge rules in that. It would be interesting to see. NASCAR certainly in its history, if you look at it, has been very reluctant to go to court. They are a privately owned company. They do not want to make their books public. It's one of the reasons why they were very happy to take their track side of things, ISC, which was a publicly traded company. They were very happy to bring that in-house and take that private because they no longer had to share what money they're bringing in and how that money is distributed and everything like that. So to go to federal court would certainly not be something that NASCAR is looking forward to or wanting to do. But again, a lot of this is how the language reads in the contracts and everything like that. And it would be interesting to see, how that plays out.
But here's the thing. That's exactly it. NASCAR does not want to go to court.
Yeah.
They do not want to open their books. They do not want to have every part of their business splashed everywhere for everybody to see how the inner workings all work. So even if 2311 has ultimately a losing case, dragging NASCAR into court might be enough of a play for them.
It's the last. I don't know what other stick they have. Like that is probably the last grasp they have at getting this because we've talked so much about leverage and what leverage the teams do and do not have. It doesn't seem like they have much else to say. And that's it. And again, they do have the name Michael Jordan. And you do not want to, if you're NASCAR, you do not want to be associated with the fact of, hey, yeah, we just yanked the charters from the team that Michael Jordan owns. And, oh, by the way, the regular season champion. And, oh, by the way, one of our most popular drivers in Bubba Wallace. Like, it would be a ton of negative publicity. Is that a thing where if you're NASCAR, you say, listen, we're just going to, what would placate you? Is it giving you a few million more dollars? Maybe you do. But I don't know. I mean, NASCAR historically has not operated that way. If you look at Jim France, by all accounts, and I don't pretend to know Jim France on a great level. I've spoken with him a few times. But from the conversation I've had with people who do know him well, pretty mild-mannered guy. Like, he's not necessarily as kind of heavy-handed as his brother was or as his father was, who were very much iron fist, right? Iron fist Bills. Jim's much more mild-mannered and kind of more amenable to things. But a lot of people tell me is if you push Jim to a point, he gets to a point and he gets into a corner, he's not somebody that really likes to be told what to do. Like, this is how he's always done things. And he is that's how his family's ran this sport. That's how he's ran this sport. And when you have other owners and team presidents and other things talking to you and saying things like you have on the story that we have on the Athletic, saying, hey, yeah, is this deal great? No. Is it better than what it was? Absolutely. We can build a business model around this. They're not Darth Vader. They're not the evil empire. Like,
that's a quote that you have.
Yeah, it's a quote. It's a direct quote. And so when you have other team owners saying like, hey, Brad Keselowski said this, on the record the other day, like, hey, is it great? No, but there's something to build from this. Like, I don't know. I'm not a legal scholar, but it would seem to be a hard case to push forward. But that's how often these things go.
Well, listen, we don't know what NASCAR is going to decide because we're told that it's pretty much up to Jim France, and that includes being on Jim France's timeline. But on the other hand, if you're one of these teams that signed the agreement because you felt like you had to, otherwise they were going to take your charters away, and then you don't take them away from 2311 in Front Row, what message is that sending to those teams who said, well, wait a minute, I thought we had to do this. Now you're saying it was a bluff? Or
it's negotiation, though, man. Bluffs all the time happen negotiations. That's what it is.
I think if I'm another team, I'm trying to think this through. I think I'm like, you know what? I signed it. I signed to get what I could. I don't love it at all, but I'm quietly going, yeah, take them, open their books, take them to court, take it all the way. Because what do you care if 2311's business if they
selfishly, it's about you want them to do it. It's better for you potentially,
right?
Unless it completely implodes the sport. And
that would be bad.
So there's a downside to this as well.
That would be bad.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pros and cons in this, and again, I wish I had the answer to this because this isn't public record, but if the charter agreement says if the contract ends on December 31st, 2024, and there's no more charter agreement, it disappears.
There is for 13 teams,
but that's a new agreement though that starts. So if the current agreement ends, you're operating under that one. I don't know how you can you say that they're taking my charters? I don't know. It depends
if they revoke them. They could just let them expire.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right,
what I'm saying. And so I don't know. It's very fascinating to see how this plays off because you have two sides who NASCAR is very used historically to getting its way and running its sport how it ever wants to. There's a long history dating back to really the first year NASCAR was founded of this is how Bill Sr. is going to do it. This is how Bill Jr. is going to do it. And Jim France is kind of continuing that legacy of this is my sport. It's a private business. We'll run it how you want to. But you also have another side and Michael Jordan and Curtis Polk who are very much used to getting how they want, how things they want and doing things their way. And it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Remains to see how this is going to play out. No, not really. I mean,
hey man, give something to write about.
Gives us something to write about. You're going to be talking about a lot of court cases or something.
That's great. It's my wheelhouse, baby.
Oh, well, you enjoy that. Anyway, so we promised you guys that for the good race poll bets, we would try to come up with a way to pay it off. We decided in the car on the way down here. Matthew Bishop had suggested what is going to be the winning bet. So now we're going to reveal that to you.
So good. I love it.
The loser of the good race poll this year has to run a lemonade stand for a certain amount of hours. We're trying to figure out exactly how we're going to do that. Maybe it's for every race you've lost by, it's
an hour.
We're
going to worry about the fine print later.
Yeah, we'll figure that out. But we have to run a lemonade stand at Daytona International Speedway during speed weeks at some point next year. We're not sure if that's going to be in the fan zone or outside the track. We have been in touch with the track, and they are on board with us doing this. We are, of course, we can't, how it works in NASCAR. You have to pay for if you're, a vendor. So because we're not going to try to make money, we're going to donate all the proceeds we get from our lemonade stand to the NASCAR Foundation. That would allow us to have our little booth, and we will try to figure out a way to sell lemonade. Please come on by.
Awesome.
And you'll have to buy it from Jordan because I'm going to win.
That's fine. I want to lose this bet so bad. I literally
want to lose it. Well, that takes the fun out of it.
Oh God, I'm looking for. I actually was sitting here last night designing the T-shirt I'm going to make if I have to sell lemonade. It's going to be like JB's Juice, and I'm going to have a big lemonade on it. And then
you're taking the fun out of this. I want you to feel like this is a punishment.
No, I get to interact with the people. We're going to have some nice lemonade during Speed Week, and then on one side of the shirt, I'm going to have the Athletic logo. On the other side of the shirt, I'm going to have Dirty Mo Media logo. It'll be great. Interact with the listeners. Thanks for listening to the show.
I'll
buy some. Why? I thought I actually was Googling how to get a lemonade mascot, a little guy in a costume, and have him, stand
I don't want to do this. So if you actually want to do it, go ahead. But I'm going to win it fair and square to make sure that you do it.
That's fine.
I did win the regular season championship,
awesome.
So I'm up 1-0. That's just worth 1 point. So I have to go first here. Atlanta. What are people going to vote on this little race? I don't know. Was it a bad race? No. But was it a great race? No. Oof. I feel like whatever I do, you're going to try to go a little bit higher. So I don't want to go too low because that'll give you an easy win. And it'll suddenly, my regular season championship being up 1-0 will suddenly be erased. So I can't have that. I've got to go up 2-0 to start the playoffs. Because of that, I'm going to say 74%.
Oof. 74? What's the numbers for Atlanta previous races here?
I don't have those right now. I'm using my computer for a podcast. I
You've
can't
been
look
checking
at it.
other stuff on here. You can check that too.
I don't have it up right now. Sorry.
Way to be prepared.
Do your research. Do your research.
I don't keep the chart. You chart. Make it.
It's on jeffgluck.com. Everybody always asks me for the numbers. I keep them on jeffgluck.com with an updated spreadsheet. It's free.
You said 74?
74.
All right, 76%.
Dang. I knew you were going to go higher than me, whatever I did.
Yeah, I think this wasn't the crashes that people wanted, which I actually think works in the favor. Because I think this had been,
Dang it. I feel like, I totally blew that.
Oh, you totally, but it's okay. I mean, you don't have those weeks where you think you have a good guess. And I did a couple weeks ago. I don't know where we were at. Was it Dartmouth? 2 weeks ago at Daytona?
I was too scared of going too high, but now I even see the people in the comments.
Oh, yeah.
Jacob D says that's way too low. People are saying Derek says 82%. Jacob D again, he's saying probably 85 or so. I'm talking about our YouTube live chat.
This is in the. My guess is cemented. I said, what is that? You said what?
74.
I said 76. This race is in the 80s.
You think it's in the 80s?
I think it's in the 80s. Why would you not?
That good.
Was it? It was fine. It wasn't a stupid.
It wasn't a stupid
crazy race. It was fine. It was
all right. I mean, I don't think it was that great at all.
Okay.
It was fine. It was okay.
Yeah.
Dang.
I think
it probably should have been upper 70s, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, it was a bad guess. But you know what? You have those. You're not going to win every week. It's okay. Get your lemonade stand ready.
Oh, that would really suck.
Gotta be hilarious.
By the way, you guys, another one we were considering doing, which I can't remember whose name it was. It emailed me before the season and then emailed me to remind me their guest. And it was really good. It's just not quite a fair balance. Would be to take a Greyhound bus from your house to Daytona. But I live in Denver, Colorado. You live in Charlotte. So it would have been a very uneven, unless we both had to fly. Somebody suggested the tweet up today. We both would have had to fly to New York and then take it all the way down or something.
No, you just fly to a distance 8 hours outside of Daytona and then take the bus from there. It's not that complicated. Really, you overthink things.
All right. Well,
but
it's not the bet.
It would have been fine.
It's not the bet. The bet is running a lemonade stand.
That's
so
gonna be awesome.
It's going to be okay.
Can't wait. The only bad thing is we can't sell alcohol with the lemonade.
Hey, you never know. Do we have to get a liquor license for that?
Probably.
Oh my God. You would enjoy that too much being a bartender.
I will be Googling Daytona Beach liquor laws after we're done with the show.
Okay. All right, everybody. I think that's it for this first episode of the playoffs. Did we forget anything else?
Hang on.
Look at your notes, Jordan.
Can I ask you about, this is something I noticed, for a super speedway race, what did you think about passing and stuff? Like, we kind of talked about it was a track position race, that kind of thing. We didn't have a lot of big runs. Do you want to see more of that? Are you happy with this and how it's kind of evolving?
Well, again, it sounds like it's turning into old Daytona, and I think they did have runs. They just weren't on top of each other because there wasn't much grip. So it's going to be ultimately, they said Logano said they're not close to being able to take the plates off and essentially go to the other package, the normal package. But yeah, I mean, it's going to keep wearing out. Driver said the track was getting grayer. So, I think this is just going to be a different kind of super speedway race. And that's what you're going to have until it's so worn out that they just have to run.
That was my second question is if it starts to get to that way, or it's more like the Xfinity race was, we've got a pretty good amount of separation. We have all these different kind of packs of cars. And it's a lot of single file. Do they just say the surface is fine, you can keep running on it, but we're going to pave it because we want to bring back
repave it again?
Yeah, because we want to maintain.
I don't think they would.
You don't to maintain that crazy.
Okay. Yeah, I think they'll just keep them, try to pack them up as much as they can for as long as possible, even if it's worn out, because it'll just be like old Daytona. So
that's fair. Okay, that's all I had on my list. I just wanted to ask you that question.
Okay. Again, I believe the plan, is to run some sort of mega podcast on the Teardown feed. I think our producer, Colby, I hope you're not yelling at me right now. So we can watch, she just put it in the chat for us. You can see our interviews with the playoff drivers on the YouTube channel. We've already posted two more dropping tomorrow. But then if you want to listen to all the interviews from Playoff Media Day, we had such a good time with the drivers talking to them. talked about like the most random things, talked about some racing as well, obviously. Yeah, you guys you're our mega podcast coming Wednesday. All 16 drivers. There you go. It's in the chat.
Fantastic. I'm very, very proud of our work and then the whole crew at Dirty Mo Media. Great job putting this all together. I think you guys are going to absolutely love it. Fun conversation. I think we'll toot our own horn here. Beep beep. I think we.
Who says that? Who says that? Who says we'll toot our own horn? Beep beep. Who says that? I've never heard that.
You're welcome.
Oh my gosh. And
conversation with the drivers, I think it's great. I think you're going to see a side of some drivers that you frankly haven't seen before.
Oh,
it's good
my
stuff.
God. How old are you? Oh, you say I'm like the old man. Toot our horn. Beep. Oh my God, that's so cringe. Sorry. Anyway.
Are you crying?
Yes.
Are you crying? Why? I say that all the time. I don't see the problem with that.
Everybody, we're going to sign off for now. Everybody, I'll be at Watkins Glen next week. Jordan will be at Bristol. Talk to you guys next time. Thanks for everybody listening. See you later on the Teardown.
Beep,
Bye.
beep.